Good morning, folks. Jeff Jackson, another Forage Friday. Here we are in July. We are still planting annual forages. So the summer annuals are still going in. These warm season crops like sorghum sudan grass, forage sorghum, pearl millet, maybe some of the foxtail millets. But I'm seeing a lot of questions online and getting a lot of phone calls about what to plant and maybe even how to harvest. So let's talk about that a little bit yet today, since there's still some planting season available. And what I'm telling people is, here we are. So what are we today? The 12th of July. We still have the rest of July, all of August, part of September, and that is for everybody in the north. If you're a little farther south, you still have more growing season than that. So you know, we're talking about 60 days of really good heat, and then we get into September, nights get cool, days get short, heat's a little bit limited. And these warm season summer annuals really love heat. And that's another thing to consider. You get in on some of these acres, how have they been so far? Well, above average rainfall where we're flooded out, prevent plant, some of those pieces. So that soil has been saturated. Generally going to be a cooler soil. Some of the environments farther north have been lower than normal temperature wise, so you have to remember, if we're going to go plant on saturated soil that's been saturated, that's the low spots. It might not take a lot of moisture again to resaturate those, and some of these warm season annuals, maybe don't overdo your expectations if we're going to be on saturated soil with something that likes hot and dry. Okay, think about that. So, okay, what do we do? I would say, and I saw a post this morning, so this kind of spurred things again, made it a little bit more concrete what we're going to talk about today, where people have made, well, how much can I make? In my world, this is just me. When I do standing samples out there, fresh cut, and I get a good stand, and they are probably 40 inches tall, I generally estimate 2.5 to 3 ton minimum on dry matter accumulation at 40 inches with a good stand. So you get past that, that's, you know, maybe 40 or 45 days worth of growth. You get past that, obviously it goes up. So if you really need to have 3 ton to pay for your input costs, not a big deal. I think we can still do that pretty easy. Then the next question people ask is, what do I plant? Well, I usually would say, then you have to decide how you're going to harvest it and feed it. So if you're going to do wet wrapped hay, that makes a difference. If you're going to try to go do dry hay, that makes a difference. If you're going to just simply chop that crop, and you know that you want to put it in a bunker, maybe you need to use that swather and use a different hay head to get it picked up. But those are all considerations of what we plant, how we plant it, and how we're going to manage it going forward. So the guys that are asking today about doing dry hay, so they want to take that thing, they want to swath it, they want to put it in a windrow, do dry hay, round bale, big square bale, maybe even a small square bale. But they want to get it dry. You have to consider the plant texture, obviously. Higher leaf to stem ratio, smaller stems generally dry quite well. You can't take a 60, 70, 80 inch crop very easily, expect to swath it or run it through a crimper and get it to dry well. You have too many tons of dry matter laying in a windrow. The suggestion would be probably to cut that twice so you can manage the moisture, get a high quality crop put in the bunker. So when people say, what should I plant? And I'll ask, well, how do you want to harvest it? If they're going to chop silage and they want to do one big cut, well, take a sorghum sudan grass, let it grow big, full, or use the rest of the season, or use a single cut forage sorghum. It's getting late enough now that you might have to use one of these guys, swath it, put it in a windrow, wilt it for a couple days, and then run the chopper with the hay head, pick it up to get it at the right moisture. So again, going back to that, if they're going to do baleage, and maybe they've got a baler with a pre-cutter in it so they can size those pieces. Today it doesn't matter to me, folks, whether you plant a pearl millet, a sorghum sudan grass, or a forage sorghum. We're still going to take that out as long as we can. We're going to swath it, lay it in a windrow, run it through a wet baler, wrap it at the end of the day, whether it's a tube wrap or individual wrap. There are some people that are going to cut twice. There are some people that are going to go cut once, get a bale put up, whether it's dry or wet, and then they're going to graze later. If a person wants to graze late through the fall, I really like the opportunity of the hybrid pearl millets because they do not have prussic acid and not cause us that anguish to go get cows in when freeze is coming. So again, those pearl millets work really good if we're going to cut once and graze later. Now, remember, on that cutting, if you want good regrowth, you have to cut 5 to 6 inches high because on a hybrid pearl millet, the growing point comes up in the stem a ways. So you have to just remember that. If you don't, you will have less than, you won't be happy with the regrowth. Let's put it that way. Now, another post earlier today talked about cutting height for regrowth on a sorghum sedan grass. If you have, so you need to know what you have. A Brachytic dwarf BMR or a Brachytic dwarf sorghum sedan grass type. Generally, the nodes are tighter, more compact. We can get by usually with a 3 to 4 inch cutting height on a Brachytic dwarf. If you do not have the dwarf trait or the Brachytic trait, generally going to be about 6 inches high or higher because we really like to leave 2 nodes for the best regrowth. And if you have a standard product, the nodes are higher and spread apart more. So a Brachytic dwarf will have compacted nodes and you can get by cutting it shorter. So a few things to consider there this morning. Then the other question is forage quality. What's your goal on quality? So runs true with almost every crop we have out there that we're going to consider to cut, bale, or cut and chop is the sooner you cut it, the higher the crude protein, the higher the digestibility, the better the palatability, and the more energy that's going to be stored in there as an easy to get to sugar or carbohydrate. The longer you wait, if you wait for the flag leaf to come out and a seed head to pop out, as soon as that flag leaf comes out and the head elongates, the crude protein is going to go down, the fiber digestibility will go down, and the lignin will go up, which is the undigestible portion. So the reason this protein goes down is starting to reallocate carbohydrates towards making seed and starch. So the sooner you cut it, the higher the crude protein content will be. We can take sorghum sedan grasses and start out 16-17% crude protein. When the head pops out and we start putting grain on, we go from 15 to 8 at hard grain. So remember a few of those things. The faster you cut it, the sooner it gets off, the higher the digestibility, the better the palatability, so you have less waste, and the higher the crude protein if that's what you're after. So I rambled on for 8.5 minutes this morning here. Hope y'all are having a great day, but this is a Forage Friday. Jeff Jackson, the Forage Fan Addict. Hope you're all having a great day. Thank you, and God bless.